Good evening, everyone. I'm Leslie Orlovsky, Executive Director of Team Phenomenal Hope. We are so grateful to have you join us this evening. And to kick it off, I would like to introduce Colonel Carl Hicks, Team PH current board member, caregiver for PH Angel, and all-around great guy. Carl, take it away.
Well, thanks, Leslie. Having been a warrior in this fight against pulmonary hypertension for now almost 30 years, I've met many wonderful people around the world. A number of you are on the call tonight. It shouldn't be a surprise that those of you that share the same philosophy as I do in terms of how do we approach this fight are even more dear to me. For me, that philosophy came from a discussion I had a long, long time ago when I served as a soldier in the Army. I made a comment to my boss, who was a general and my mentor, about hoping to get more training time next year, hoping to get more resources next year. Sir, I hope I get the opportunity to take my soldiers to train here. He stopped me right there. Carl, hope is not a method. Hope doesn't achieve anything. You've got to get out there and get it done. You can't just sit back and hope that something happens. And that conversation changed my life. And it certainly changed how I approach our struggle against pulmonary hypertension. Thankfully, others have taken the same approach, and that's why we have 16 or 17 medications now. Back when Megan was diagnosed in 94, Megan, my daughter, we had 0 FDA-approved medications. Well, how about when Dr. Patty George hopped on a bike and led a team of other people in a nonstop race day and night across the United States to raise awareness and funds for this fight? Dr. George wasn't sitting back and hoping someone would come up with a solution. She got into it and did it. How about Lanice right here on the call with us, a patient? She dedicates all of her time and efforts to helping support us in this fight and does a great job leading our support groups. Well, today I want to introduce someone who epitomizes the philosophy of doing, not just sitting and hoping. She's making a difference for all of us in this struggle, and it truly is an honor and a pleasure for me to introduce her. Many of you know or have heard of her, Kayla Frattini. Kayla's mother, Ruth, was diagnosed in 2011 with PAH due to scleroderma. She lost her, sadly, just a few years later in 2017. No one would have blamed Kayla to have stepped away from the fight against PH to go off and grieve, just hoping that someone else would solve this problem of pulmonary hypertension. But that's not our Kayla. She doubled down on the fight instead, and her efforts are paying off for all of us. Kayla took over the Pittsburgh 5K fundraiser in 2018 and has been instrumental in developing it into one of the best successful events in this space. Because of Kayla Frattini and her hard work and refusal to just sit back and hope, well over $277,000 has been raised for the fight against the disease that took her mother's and my daughter's life. I have a feeling she isn't done. She truly, truly is a warrior in this fight, and I deeply respect and admire her. She is amazing. And with all that, Kayla can still be kind of fun too. Kayla, we love you. Thank you so much for all you do for us in this fight. You are the very best. Folks, Kayla Frattini.
Thank you, Carl. I am so grateful to be here today, not just to honor my mom, but to bring more visibility to how PH affects the lives of those living with it. And that's why I'm so excited to be able to moderate this webinar today and get to discuss the everyday life and the struggles that come with PH. Before we get started, I wanted to take a moment to inform everyone that what you hear tonight is not a medical discussion. And for the latest information about pulmonary hypertension and how to manage it, we encourage you to go to learnlivebreatheph.org. As we begin with our panel introductions, you're going to notice that our panelists have different forms of pulmonary hypertension. And as such, their experiences and their levels of difficulty with things may differ based on the type that they have. And to bring some clarity to those types that you're going to be hearing about tonight, I'm going to actually pass this back over to Carl to explain the difference between pulmonary hypertension, often known as PH, and pulmonary arterial hypertension, or PAH. Carl, could you give us a little explanation?
Well, thanks, Kayla. I'll give it a shot. And remember, I'm not a doctor, but I kind of think of pulmonary hypertension as an umbrella diagnosis. It means high blood pressure in the lungs. There are different reasons people can get high blood pressure in the lungs. Pulmonary arterial hypertension, or PAH, is a type of pulmonary hypertension that's due to a disease in the arteries themselves. And there are very special medications that focus just on the pulmonary arteries for that type of PAH.
Thank you, Carl. That's a great summary of these two types of pulmonary hypertension, and it's going to be useful as we hear from our speakers. And with that in mind, let's pass it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. Kira, would you like to start?
Sure. Can everyone hear me okay? Score. My name is Kira Crunk. I was diagnosed in 2014. I have pulmonary arterial hypertension, also known as idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension, which basically means they don't know what created it. It's created right side heart failure, so I have congestive heart failure as well.
Thank you, Kira. Rita, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Rita Ellison, and I recently moved from the Wheaton, Illinois area to Nashville, Tennessee. And it was to be with our family. They were moving and they said, "Do you want to go?" And I said, "We're going." And so we are adjusting to just being in a new area, making new friends. And it's a beautiful climate, beautiful scenery as we go back and forth to different places. And we have several of our grandkids. Our family has, we have 4 grandkids. 3 of them are the Nashville family and 1 is in Minnesota. And the Nashville family, the kids are off at a university in Indiana, but one of them is still homeschooling. So I get the joy of once in a while reading and studying things with him as a senior and a junior in high school. So I'm just really grateful that we're able to be with family, and I'm looking forward to meeting people tonight and hopefully clarifying their understanding of PH and PAH.
Thank you, Rita. And Lanice, definitely not last but not least, can you please give a little bit of background on yourself?
I'm Lanice Whitley. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I have PH associated with left heart failure. I was diagnosed in 2012, and it's been a journey, but it's been an interesting journey.
Thank you, Lanice. And thank you all to all 3 of you for being here. As you guys can see, we have a diverse group of individuals that will be able to provide us with well-rounded insights to their experiences with PH this evening. And one common consistency that you'll hear is that PAH, or pulmonary arterial hypertension, is often in the spotlight, while having PH secondary to other diseases is typically downplayed. Rita, why do you think that this is?
Well, at first, I really didn't understand the difference, but I would say that when someone hears the word pulmonary hypertension, they focus on hypertension and think, well, it's just high blood pressure, or they understand it in a different way. And when you understand that it's the pressure in your lungs, it's completely different. So it took a while for me to understand the difference between the two, but fortunately, I had a very knowledgeable physician that took me through that journey of understanding and getting the help that I needed.
Absolutely. And Lanice, what are your thoughts on why PAH is more often in the spotlight than PH?
I think basically because most of us who have PH have it because of a primary disease. Like mine is left heart failure, some might be scleroderma, some might be COPD. So doctors pretty much focus on what caused the PH in the first place. So with that being said, PAH is definitely one disease, but when you have PH, you can have other diseases that caused it. So I think that at the beginning, for a while, doctors focused on the other disease and not the PH.
That makes complete sense. And knowing that PAH is in the spotlight more than PH is, I would assume that this could affect the amount of time it took for each of you to get your diagnosis. Kira, could you discuss how long it took for you to get diagnosed and what the testing was like to come to that diagnosis?
Well, let's see. It took a few years to actually get to proper diagnosis. I officially started all my medical stuff back in 2013. But I didn't have any insurance, so it wasn't until the Affordable Health Care Act kicked in that I got it. And that got me into the doctors that I needed to see. I didn't recognize a lot of the side effects, the symptoms that I was having as being an issue. I just thought it was weight related. And a lot of my primary doctors passed it off as that as well. So rather than actually testing and doing what they needed to do, they just put me on diet medication and that kind of thing. So it took over a year and probably 4 different doctors for me to finally get to a cardiologist and a pulmonologist that started testing for pulmonary arterial hypertension. And to do that, they did a right heart cath, EKG, 6-minute walk. Gosh, there's a whole gamut of stuff that they, put you through, but those are the 3 of the main ones. And then once you get that diagnosis, they can start, a treatment plan.
Wow. 3 years, that's a long time to get a diagnosis. And that's a lot of doctors. That's a lot of money. That's a lot to go through to finally get to where you are. Lenise, did you feel that you had a similar experience, or how did yours differ to get to diagnosis?
I had started having problems 2 years before my diagnosis. I had multiple hospitalizations for low heart rate. And it was attributed to a whole bunch of things. It was attributed to the fact that I was overweight. It was attributed to the fact that my husband suddenly died. It was attributed to the fact that I had asthma. It was really, I believe, not taken seriously, but I knew something was wrong and I was getting worse. This was when I was living in New Jersey. It wasn't until I got to New York that I was trying to climb subway stairs that I just stopped every 3 steps and I was trying to breathe. I called my primary care. I said, look, I know what's being said, but something's wrong. I need a cardiologist. So I got a cardiologist in New York. And the first thing she said was that, have you ever had a left-right heart catheterization? I said, no, I don't even know what that is. So she gave me, so I had a left-right catheterization, and that's where they found the pH on the left side. And they found it because of left heart failure. And the 2 years that I was searching for an answer, I didn't even know I had left heart failure. And somewhere along the line, after multiple hospitalizations, and actually my heart stopped, I was resuscitated. I should have had better care. Now I know better.
That is quite the journey as well. Rita, did you have similar experiences?
It was not quite as detailed or as long as that, but I was originally seeing my physician, and the high blood pressure and hypertension was the issue. And that's what I thought we were really going after. And after a while, he said, I really want to take a different course. And he said, I want you to have a right heart catheter. And so I did. I went in for that. And I did not realize while I was in there, because afterward, I was returned to my room and sedated a bit. And someone was trying to explain to me about medications and everything. And I really was not tracking with them. But it took me time from my regular physician to a specialist in order to really have that diagnosed. And then once I realized that there was medication ahead and special attention that I needed to pay to it. And I'm just grateful for that doctor pursuing it and continuing to look until we found the answer. So that was a real blessing for me.
Wow. Now, one thing I'm hearing from all of you is you're talking about the variety of tests that you had to go through to get to your PH or your PAH diagnosis. I'm hearing about the right cath. I'm hearing about the 6-minute walk. Lenise, you even mentioned that you weren't even sure what all of these procedures were, what they meant, what they were there for. How do you think this information could have been communicated better to you so you had a better understanding of what was going on?
I think basically I'm one of those people, if I can have something to read, I'm really good with it. If I had other issues going on, so for the doctor to just tell me what it wasn't sticking with me. But if maybe somebody had given me a written thing, people are so quick to say, "Oh, you can look on the web." Look on the web for what? But if I think for me, if I had had maybe something written, or maybe the doctor wasn't in such a hurry. I think that was also a big thing. You have what, 20 minutes with your doctor? So I think that that was a big thing too. Also, I think part of the problem was it was such a shock. I mean, I knew something these years was wrong, and then to actually hear something was wrong, it was such a shock. I just kind of shut down. I think that if I had A, been prepared, B, had some literature to read, and more time to talk to the doctor, it would have been easier.
Absolutely. Kira, do you have anything to add to or build upon what Lanice was saying?
I didn't even know that he was checking for pulmonary arterial hypertension. I knew he had ordered a right heart cath. I didn't know what he was looking for. So when I got the diagnosis, I was kind of completely thrown off because I wasn't expecting a lung disease diagnosis. I thought he was just, checking out my heart. So I think communication in general should be clear and upfront, because honestly, I'd rather know what I'm facing beforehand than get surprised with it afterwards.
Absolutely. And Rita, I'm hearing Kira just mention like she didn't even know what types of tests or what she was getting, what they were looking for. Once you got your diagnosis, how long did it take for you to understand it? And how could the doctors have better ensured that you actually understood what was going on?
I had kind of the same experience that Kira did. I knew that I was getting a procedure, but it wasn't really explained to me what they were looking for or the purpose of it. And so it came as quite a shock when I finally was given the understanding of what this diagnosis was and what it meant to me. So I feel that explanation along the way would be helpful, and understanding the purpose of the different tests. For instance, with the 6-minute walk, I wasn't sure if it was how fast you could walk or how many hallways, or as one of the people giving me the test one time said, "Oh, you don't have to walk that fast. Just walk like you would if you're out in a shopping mall." And I thought, that's not what I understood. So sometimes the people that are giving you the instructions are not giving the same understanding. So I think it's important for them to coordinate.
Absolutely. And Kira, just like you had to go through several rounds of testing to arrive at your diagnosis, did you find that you actually kind of mentioned it, you needed to see several doctors in order to get there. Before you found the right doctor, how many did you have to go through to figure that out? And how did you know it was the right doctor for you?
Well, as far as primary care doctors, I probably had to at least have 3 different doctors. 2 of them kept on prescribing diet pills and not wanting to test. My 3rd primary care doctor I got after my PH diagnosis, and she told me that my pulmonary clinic, that is renowned for its, ability and research, was wrong, and she decided I was diabetic, despite 3 different, diabetic testings that we had done. And so I ended up firing her. So I ended up finally getting a primary care doctor that was recommended through National Jewish Health. Up until then, Dr. Brent Fenster was my first pulmonary doctor. He was the one that gave me my PH diagnosis. Dr. George is my current pulmonologist, and they both have been the most supportive and understanding doctors I think that I've ever dealt with. Incredibly supportive throughout this entire journey, and just amazing doctors at what they do.
That's wonderful to hear that you finally found somebody for you. Rita, how many doctors did you have to go through before you found the right one? And what was that experience like for you to figure out that this is the right person?
Well, it's very interesting. I don't know how it happened because I had a primary physician who referred me to someone else who was more of a specialist, and that's where I had my right heart catheter. And as I was visiting with the doctor, I told him that I was going to be moving from Minnesota to Chicago, and he said, "Well, that's a great move," because he said, one of my classmates from my training is down there and has a practice for pulmonary hypertension. So I felt very fortunate to be able to go to Dr. Gomberg. She's well known across the country, and she gave me excellent care. So as soon as I settled into that pulmonologist, I was set for as long as she was there. And I'm grateful that that interesting connection happened for me because it really ended up being a good thing.
That's wonderful. Lanice, what was your doctor finding journey like?
Once I was diagnosed as having PH, the first PH doctor I had said I had portal pulmonary hypertension because I have stage 4 liver disease. Then that doctor left, so that doctor was in Methodist of Brooklyn. So then everything for me is at Mount Sinai in the city. So I was referred to a doctor there. I saw her twice before she said, "Oh, you know what? You have left heart." I don't take care of left heart. I just do right heart. After the second visit, I thought, okay, well, didn't you know this the first time? And so she referred me to somebody else. So I went to that doctor. I was sitting in the room waiting for her to come in, and I had oxygen on, which my cardiologist had given me because of the trouble with a heart failure. She said, "You don't need that. Take it out." So I knew that was the last visit with her. And then I was referred to the doctor I have now, Dr. Human-Poor at Mount Sinai, and it's been about 5 years. I've been with him for 5 years. So basically, I had three doctors before I got to Dr. Poor.
So it's crazy long journey for all of you to come to find the right doctor, but I am glad that all of you have been able to find the doctor that resonates with you and how you want to treat and approach your particular type of PH. You know, for many people, choosing a doctor actually comes down to the insurance they have. For some context, where I live, there are actually two major insurance players with corresponding hospital systems, and each insurance provider's hospital system often doesn't accept the other's insurance. And this can actually force patients to have to settle on their treatment plan and not necessarily receive the optimal path forward for them without paying high out-of-pocket expenses. In my family's case, our family actually had to change insurance plans from what our employer provided and end up paying some insurance out of pocket in order to work with the doctors that made sense for our family's journey on this. And so kind of understanding that context, understanding that that's not unique to my family. Kira, how has insurance played a role in your treatment plan?
Well, I'm on Medicaid, and I think that's it's got an unfair stigma of being for poor people. It's provides all of your medical stuff at very low cost and is covered by the state, I believe. And unfortunately, like when I first got my diagnosis and they decided that I needed to see specialists, because of my insurance, my primary care doctor at the time just suggested I go to Denver Health, which is it's a nice hospital, but it's a nice hospital if you're getting a gunshot wound taken care of. Not really well known for any kind of, pulmonary issues. And so I actually had to advocate with the encouragement of my mother and a family friend to go to National Jewish, which does take Medicaid, which is amazing because a lot of places around here don't. But I had to advocate for it. I had to push for it to be able to get into that clinic. And I'm glad that I did. But thankfully, Medicaid covers a lot of the cost of my stuff. But even with Medicaid, finding places that will accept it and, is still that kind of loophole. Even getting our medicines covered with our insurance can be difficult. But thankfully with National Jewish anyways, we have PH nurses that are amazing and help us navigate a lot of that.
Wow, that is definitely a journey for you as well. And as you can see, it definitely forced you to fight and advocate for yourself. Lanice, how has your experience with insurance in choosing your path to health journey been affected based on the insurance you have?
Well, I have actually very good insurance. I retired from the federal government, and after I retired, I had to retire earlier than I planned. I retired at 61 because of my health issues, but they paid everything but 15%. The problem was that I retired. I had enough years in the age to retire on a regular pension, so I couldn't get on Social Security disability. So that meant that I was caught between that gap where my insurance paid 85%, but I paid 15%. And with it doesn't seem like it should happen, but the truth of the matter was that I had to wait 4 years to get to Medicare, and out of pocket within that 4 years, I spent over $30,000. So it was, it was a struggle. It was a struggle because, even though they paid a lot, that 15%, when you have a lot of illness, adds up real quick.
Absolutely. And not to mention, if you're on a fixed income, that creates an even bigger challenge for you to be able to afford just common things that everybody needs in life on top of all of your medical care that you may need. Rita, have you had similar experiences with insurance and making changes to your health plan?
Actually, mine was quite different. When we were considering, retirement and all the plans that are available, I had a friend that was in human resources at a company, and she was very aware of the different insurance plans. So she advised me about a supplemental plan in addition to Medicare. And she told me what I should be looking for. And then I found an insurance representative who teaches you about what the plans are. Her point is not to sell insurance, but to advise people. And that's her small stipend that she gets for spending time with you and it was well worth the investment because she went over the plans with us and told us exactly what would be to our advantage, and which was not advantage plan. But anyway, she helped us with that, and she helped us pick out a very good supplemental plan so that fortunately, since this whole journey has started and I went on Medicare, we haven't had co-pays at all because of the good insurance that we have. Of course, it comes on a monthly basis to have it covered, but I feel that we were very well guided in that.
That's great to hear on that end for you. Kira, we had talked about Lanice and she had touched about how much out-of-pocket expenses she had. Have you had to deal with that with being on Medicaid? Have you had to deal with out-of-pocket expenses? And how has that changed your life and lifestyle because of all of that out-of-pocket expense?
Well, I'm on a fixed income anyways. I didn't qualify for actual disability because I was a college student when I got diagnosed. I had just turned 30, shortly after or before I had gotten diagnosed. So I'm only on supplemental security income. I pay with Medicaid. It depends on what policy is in office, who's in office and what's been, changed. It varies off and on, but usually if I do have a copay for like medicines, it's $2 or $3 per prescription, depending on whether it's brand name or generic. Copays for doctor's visits are also $1 or $2, depending on what kind of specialist you're seeing. However, when you're on 19 different prescriptions and you see 6 different specialists, that adds up really quickly. So it makes things difficult. Like you're financially strapped all of the time. And I'm a mom and I have a daughter. So she's, so you've got kids that you're worried about. And I'm lucky enough to be in the position where I live with family. and they've been incredibly supportive. It's, financially, emotionally, everything. So I've been very lucky in that instance, but not everyone is. And there are plenty of PH patients that struggle financially and physically because they have to decide, am I going to eat or am I going to get my medications this month?
Absolutely. Thank you all for bringing some insight into that. I know it can be a personal question, and I appreciate all of your willingness to share your experiences on that topic. So switching gears a little bit here, I want to get into how pulmonary hypertension has affected your life. And I'm not talking about the physical changes that the disease might have caused with you. I'm talking about the other aspects. How's it affected your family relationships, your social life, finances, maybe even where you live? Lanice, how has your PH diagnosis affected those areas?
Well, I moved to New York from Brooklyn to be closer to Mount Sinai Hospital because I had other health issues. So I moved from a little town in New Jersey to Brooklyn to an inner city. I'd never in my life lived in a city. The $30,000 that I had talked about, that was a huge bit of money for me. It took me a while to save that money. And so, the money that I thought I had put away, I now didn't have. As far as family, it's really funny with family. Kira just mentioned that she had a lot of family support. I think that a lot of my family prefer to think that I'm healthy as a horse. It makes it easier for them to go about their day. I'm pretty sure that's what they're thinking. I have marvelous friends, and I've made marvelous friends, and I have marvelous friends that I had in the past. But it definitely affects you socially. Whereas I used to be able to just get up and go. Now I'm lugging oxygen tanks. So I'm kind of dictated by how much liters I have on the tanks, how long I could be out. It's different because, there's times when you have social events, already on the calendar and you can't go because you suddenly feel sick or something is going on. So I believe it has really affected me socially that way. As far as support is concerned, I have a lot of friends and I have some family members that do support me. And it's been a real journey. It's been kind of like a cleaning out house thing, when you get something like this, you know who's in your corner and who's not.
Absolutely. Rita, how about you? How has the PH diagnosis affected the areas of your life?
Well, I've come to find out that I have, which I already knew, a loving family that is very supportive. And we moved here to Tennessee to live near one of our daughters and her family. And both of our daughters are very aware of the challenges that I have, but they are so gracious in finding things online for me that would be more helpful to my health and nutrition and different kinds of information that would help me to be well. And so that supportive part of my family has been a real blessing. And having grandchildren that are very caring and loving is also been a blessing. And I've got a husband that is beyond compare as far as his willingness to go with me to my appointments and encourage me to get on the treadmill and to live a healthy lifestyle. And so I've been blessed that way. And I'm just really thankful for all of that. To maintain my health, I had a discussion with my family about bringing my treadmill here when we were moving. And it was one thing I wasn't going to give up. And they said, well, there's a health center right across from your apartment. And I said, yeah, but if it's chilly, I've got to change clothes and dress for the weather just to go walk. So I have to say that was one of the best things I did for myself, was to bring that friendly treadmill, because even when I've got something in the oven cooking for dinner, I can come in and do 15 or 20 minutes or so. And it's right there for me. And I think sometimes you have to make your resources more available and make sure that you have the things you need to stay healthy.
Absolutely. And with that, Rita, you had mentioned about you had moved down with your family. How did that affect your social life? With the disease, with moving, all of that.
Well, we had on our questions something about moods and mental health. And I have to say that living with friends in a particular area for a long time, we mentored college students there, and it was just a very nice small town. And it was very difficult for me when I moved here. I went through a period of sadness, and I did see a counselor for a few sessions because changing and leaving your friends and trying to fit into a new culture. If any of you know the Illinois Wheaton culture, it's very traditional. And on the other hand, this area is very relaxed and just a different style of living. And so it is taking an adjustment for me to move from one culture to another. But I think I needed to learn that because I work with missionaries who are going to different countries around the world. And I've had just a tiny little spoonful taste of what it's like to adjust to a new culture. So it's been good for me to learn that.
That's wonderful. Kira, how do you manage through some of this as well?
We're talking like socially, we don't well, I mean, pretty much a lot of what they said rings true. I mean, when you get diagnosed with this, your priorities change. Relationships become your main goal, your main focus. Maintaining those relationships, working on them. So, you know, I think in my experience, I have met a lot of PH patients who would live with or near family because A, it's important, and B, it's also crucial to their survival. But it also, where you live plays a huge part in it too. National Jewish is a great pulmonary clinic, but we're in Denver and the altitude sucks. It is when you have heavy lung disease and then you go to a place that is very limited in air, very thin air, it makes things challenging. So I know that at some point in my future, if I want to continue to be able to function with a decent quality of life, I'm going to have to move, down towards sea level. For me, that would be back east because I have a lot of family in the New York area. So Lenise, I'm coming to visit. But but that also sucks because I have, my life is here, my kids' life is here, my best friends live in this area, and it would really suck to not be near them. But it's like you have to weigh that quality and quantity of life and find out what's going to be best for you and your family, and kind of make a decision based on that, which is, it's a hard decision to make.
It would definitely be a hard decision to uproot, to move. And I give you a lot of credit for recognizing and realizing what would be best for your situation. One other thing I wanted to touch on, Kira, is, Lenise, you had mentioned that you have to plan around, you have oxygen tanks, you can only be out as long as they are viable. Once they run out, you got to get back home. Kira, earlier you had mentioned that you were on about 19 medications. So how does that knowing that you have these medications, you probably have to take them at certain times. You also have oxygen. How does that affect your life, your day-to-day life?
I have to plan most outings. If they're going to be like day outings, I have to plan them. I have to make sure I have a portable concentrator. It's a little travel one that I was luckily able to get through Medicaid. But I have to make sure I have an extra battery or cords with me to plug it into a wall. So that means I have to know where I'm going to be, so I know if I have access to an outlet. So that way I know how long I'll have oxygen while I'm out. I have a car charger for it too. So that's, just more accessories I have to bring with me. Most of my oral medications I can take with me if I need to for like a day trip, but I'm also on an infusion pump. And with my infusion pump, I have to change that out every 48 hours. So for example, every Wednesday I have a standing dinner date with my best friend and her wife. And more often than not, any Wednesday that I have to change out my pump, I either bring the medicine with me and refrigerate it at their house, or we skip that Wednesday because, sometimes it's just easier to not have to bring a bunch of stuff, with me. So unfortunately, you have to plan a lot of your life around what you're going to do, where you're going, and if you even feel up to it in the first place.
Yeah, wow. And all of these changes, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of it from you guys, moving, the planning, you're planning your social lives. You just can't be spontaneous anymore. All these changes all these changes to your various aspects of life, combined with the effects the disease is having on you, it can be very draining. And so, Rita, how do you maintain your physical and mental health through it all? Is there a struggle with depression or anxiety, and how do you overcome all of those things?
Oh, that's an interesting question, because I was thinking about the fact that one of the things that somebody recommended to me was something called DoseCast, and it's on my phone, and my medications are listed in there. And when it's time to take it, it gives me a little signal, and then I know that once I've completed it, I check it off on my phone, and it's done for the day. So I don't take a lot of medications all day, but the ones that I do, I'm careful to take them at the same time. And if I go to the doctor, I have a list right in my phone of everything I'm taking and the amount. So that's been a really helpful thing for me. But I have to say that my faith is important to me, and it was important for me to get involved in a church or some community that would really affect my settling in here. And so that really helped us to get to know people, and for me to be a part of a women's group every week where I could meet new people. And I think that that's important, to find a community of some kind that will bring you in, whether it's newcomers club or people that are new to the area, in some way to find people who are in your same situation, who can kind of commiserate with you about change in life, especially when you're older. And there are just things that I do that I read things that are encouraging to me, and things that boost my faith. I've sought out people who could counsel me, that were good listeners and give me guidance into how to really do well on transition. And there's so many books and YouTube videos too, to just help you to have somebody speak truth into your life about your care, and the plan that is mapped out for you. And it's a matter of finding that plan. So for me, it's been a challenging adjustment, but I have such supportive family, and this area is very friendly. I've never been to a place where I used to work in customer service, and it was always yes, sir, yes, ma'am. And now it's a hot darling and goodbye, darling. So people are very friendly here and very easy to get to know. So that's been a blessing for me. I also like to do things like artwork and calligraphy and quiet things that kind of minister to my soul, and to just being restful and at peace with myself.
Well, it sounds like you have a great system built in for yourself. Lanice, how do you handle or maintain your physical and mental health through all of the challenges?
My faith is my strongest.
Yeah.
Is my strongest helper. I am very active in my church. I work with the seniors. I attend everything I can attend. We're a very active church, so I enjoy that. I love it, really. I also am a board member of Team Phenomenal Hope, and I have the support group, which I love. I'm thankful for that. I'm a patient advocate, which keeps me busy, and I bake. I bake a lot. I love to bake, so I bake and I read. When I first was diagnosed, I'd lost my husband, my kids were grown, they moved out, and I'm by myself with this disease. So I went to a therapist for like 2 times to Second time, at the end of the second session, she said, okay, when you want to come back? I said, oh, no, I'm good. I just want somebody to listen to me. So once I got that, I was good to go. And that's how I found out how much it's important to listen to people. But I feel that this is really, even with the diagnosis and, everything, I feel like this is still a good time of my life. I also worked on my weight. I lost 105 pounds. I try to stay active, and I went to a great pulmonary rehab here in New York, Pulmonary Wellness Foundation. I learned how to walk all over again, because when you have this disease, you sit for a while because you just can't breathe. So I truly stay active. But if I have to say the strongest thing I have, it's my faith and the belief that that God has this and I'll be all right.
Absolutely. And Lenise, I am an excellent taste tester. So if you ever need a taste tester for your cookies, you can send them my way. I would love to try them.
Gotcha.
Kira, how do you manage through the challenges? My mental health's in question anyways. Shenanigans. I participate in any shenanigans I can get into. And then I call Lenise. Lenise helps me with my mental health. No, honestly, my friends and my family are great. I mean, yes, I see a therapist, which I recommend to anybody. I think it's very important. As soon as I got diagnosed, I started the process of getting into therapy, and I've been in therapy ever since. And I suggest it to everybody. I'm on certain medications to help with that. But what you do and keeping yourself productive makes a huge difference too. It's easy to just kind of get into a slump and not do anything. And I'm guilty of that all the time. But doing stuff like this and being a part of Team Phenomenal Hope and helping them with certain events and stuff helps keep me productive and feeling worthwhile, like I'm able to give back and do something in return instead of just sitting in front of my television. Instead I get to sit in front of the computer screen. But also just spending time with my friends and my family. I'm lucky that I do have an amazing family. They're crazy. They are so crazy, but they have been loving and supportive. And I have a great kid who's a pain in the butt sometimes, but I love her to death. And I have two amazing best friends that keep me on my toes and always visit me when I'm in the hospital. And one of my best friends lives in Wyoming, and we'll do karaoke nights. And she will sing funny songs like, Every Breath You Take, and then make up her own words to that. It weirds people out, but it's a good time, but you gotta find the humor in things. I think that's the most important thing is if you don't laugh about it, it's gonna bring you down. So you gotta find the humor in it.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad to hear that all of you guys have found what works for you to help maintain both your physical and your mental health, because that is definitely something that is so important to your success as you go on this journey.
Kayla, I was just going to mention that when Lenise was telling about her story and how she is encouraging, I realized that when you encourage other people, it encourages you. So her baking and her care for other people is actually a gift that she's giving back to herself. And I think when we're involved in helping ministries or outreach kind of things, that it always really comes back to us.
Absolutely. So I want to switch gears a little bit. We talked about how you maintain your health, your both physical and mental. We've talked about a little bit of the changes that come with a PH diagnosis, but one of the ones I want to touch on are the dietary requirements, especially limiting salt intake. Rita, do you feel that enough emphasis is placed on the dietary requirements beyond saying, hey, you should limit your salt intake?
Well, I think it depends on the physician. I think we're all told this, how much salt we should have in a day and so on. But I have really found that it amounts to much more than that. It's your whole picture of your healthy eating. And I was probably overly zealous when I was first diagnosed in just counting every single little milligram. But what I'm finding is that one thing that's helped me is if we're going out to a restaurant, which seemed to be a problem for me because you really don't know what's in what you're eating. And so I would just go online, look the restaurant up and look up what I think I would like to have. And then they give the nutritional information and you can see what's in it. And I found out that going out for bagels on a Saturday morning was definitely not a good idea. So I just try to keep myself knowledgeable with the resources I've got to look things up and to be aware of what I'm eating. And sometimes it does require when I'm visiting family, for instance, and we drop over for a meal, that I'll bring something along with me if I know that they're having food that wouldn't be real helpful to my nutritional plan. So, and I find that people are very encouraging and want you to be healthy. And so they don't mind you bringing something along if they're having something different. But I usually just casually ask what they're going to have and ask them if they mind if I bring something along. And it doesn't seem to be offensive, and it kind of takes care of my good health too.
That's wonderful. Lenise, do you have any thoughts on this area? Do you feel that your doctors have been able to help you with understanding what type of dietary restrictions that you need to take to maintain your health?
I was a hard sell for the dietary restrictions. I was a happy 5'2", 250-pound person. I mean, I just loved to eat. It was my thing. So when my doctor said, well, you swell up a lot, no salt. I was trying to bargain, half a milligram, no, a milligram, no, a smidge. I mean, literally tried to bargain this salt. So my doctor was helpful. The problem that I ran into was that when I said, well, is there a nutritionist, in the practice and, who could help me? Most insurances will only pay for a nutritionist if you're diabetic or you have kidney disease. So I needed more than that. I needed to change entirely how I ate. I feel like my doctor was very helpful. The system was not helpful. So what I ended up doing was out of pocket paying for a nutritionist because I knew I had 100 pounds to lose. And she was the one who, taught me mindfulness and this, that, and the other. It's hard to limit salt. I mean, salt is what gives you the taste. It's hard. So I've now learned how to make a lot of dishes without salt or very little salt. I do have a little bit, but I feel that my doctor was helpful, but the system was not.
That makes sense. Kira, do you have any thoughts on this area and along with the doctors and helping with dietary requirements, and then also a nutritionist or going that avenue and having that available to you?
Yeah, actually, diet has been something that I've always struggled with my entire life. When I first was diagnosed, my weight was up to 450 pounds. Now we quickly discovered that 150 of that was fluid. So, I mean, salt intake definitely plays a part, especially when you don't know that it's an issue. Once I got diuresis the first time and 150 pounds of that was taken off, it makes a huge difference on your life. But with other medicines can affect whether you gain weight or not. And that is a huge struggle. My weight ended up going back up at one point. I had gone through I went through the entire process of trying to get bariatric surgery done. And about 2 weeks before my surgery, they told me they wouldn't do it because they said I wouldn't wake up. They said I wouldn't come off the table. And I was so mad. I was so mad that I went through all their hoops and then they denied me the surgery when I had been trying to plan my life around this. I decided to do it myself, and I lost 200 pounds through
Wow.
keto and with Dr. George's help. And the nutritionist at National Jewish Health was amazing. And her name's Michelle McDonald, if anybody wants a really great nutritionist. She's great. But with her and Dr. George's support and encouragement, I was able to do keto and lose 200 pounds. But that's, it's hard. It's not an easy thing, especially when you're disabled and at home and bored. And I think a lot of people discovered, like, during the lockdowns, how easy it is to just eat when you're at home. And so to have that temptation around you constantly and trying to fight it's a challenge. And it's a challenge I think a lot of us deal with every single day.
Well, I think I have to join this conversation about that because I was in a church that was doing the Daniel Plan by Dr. Amen, and it's very sensible and good eating and not at all like a diet. And so I thought, oh well, I'll do that with them. So I started, and then I continued on, and it was just little by little coming off, and people started making comments and so on. And when I went to have my right heart catheter, Dr. Gomberg came out. She said, well, you don't have to wear oxygen anymore. So losing 100 pounds for me meant that I would wear oxygen at night or during physical activity, but not just walking around or daily life. So I feel like I owe a lot to that information on nutrition and eating sensibly. It took a while, but it definitely has lasted for 6 years. So I'm grateful.
Absolutely. So thank you guys all for that background on just what it takes to live with PH and have the daily need of what everybody else does to eat. So thank you for that. I want to change it up again. I know it doesn't need to be said, but having PH, as we've all learned from your discussions tonight, can be a lot for any individual. And as you all have mentioned, that you had some great support systems to help you lean on and get through that. And I just kind of wanted to expand on that a little bit more. What does your support system look like? Do you find that it's made up of your friends? Do you find that it's made up of family? Do you find that it's important to have a variety of those types of relationships, a family, some friends? Maybe it's somebody completely out of the PH circle. I would just like to kind of understand a little bit more about what your support system is and how that helps you. So Kira, could you kind of kick us off and let us talk about that, expand on that a little bit more?
Sure. My support system currently, like physically, I live with family. I live with my mother and my stepfather and my nephew and my daughter. When I was diagnosed, I was in my own apartment and wasn't able to, started going in and out of hospitals. So I had to move back in with my parents. I was lucky enough to be able to do that. Not everybody is. So physically, I live with family. Support system outside of that is my best friends are amazing. But also I find that PH support groups are incredibly crucial to your own journey and to finding people that can relate to the struggles that you deal with on a daily basis. Because while my family is great and they have been very supportive, they and even my friends don't always know how it feels to be me because they don't deal with this lung disease, and I'm glad they don't. I'm very glad they don't. But it is really nice to talk to other people that do know what you're going through and sometimes have their own like tips and tricks on how to deal with things. So PH support groups are incredibly crucial. Finding groups outside of your own house too. We go to church occasionally here in town, and we've met some amazing people there. I've created a Facebook support group, so I've met some really great PH patients in and around this area through my Facebook support group. And I feel like any of those kind of connections are incredibly important.
Absolutely. Lenise, what does your support system look like?
I also agree with Kira about the support groups. Support groups are incredibly important because they are people that understand what you're going through because they're going through it themselves. I think it's important that you choose a support group that actually gives you support. If you have one where it's 1 or 2 people speaking out of 15, then it's the wrong support group. Find another one that supports everybody. I also have my church, which has been incredibly support. They really have supported me. And when I moved to Brooklyn, I knew my youngest daughter, my granddaughter, that was it. But I have met so many other people in my neighborhood, in my building, who have just been so wonderful. And I'm the type of person, I'm standing in the food line. I'm like, hi, how you doing? Oh yeah, peaches are high, right? I'm one of those people. So I tend to meet people, but I would have to say the friends that I have, I have friends that are right on this line. You know who you are. I have friends that are right on this line that I really truly enjoy. Kira cracks me up. I'm going to get to know Rita better. And I mean, it's just one of those things where I feel that as a patient, when I first was diagnosed, I was living in a bubble, but now I'm not. So I reach out to people. Being an advocate has also helped me reach out to people. Working with the elderly has helped me reach out to people, even though I just found out I'm one of those elderly people I keep wanting to help. And which I wasn't getting that until somebody actually had to tell me. But I enjoy people, and I've met my support group of people, my friends, my church group, some of the people on this line that I know, and friends that I've known for years. Not everybody dropped me because I think that's one of the biggest thing as a PH patients. People do fall away where you thought you had support from somebody and they can't. I've had people tell me, I can't deal with your disease. You can't deal with my disease. How do you think I feel? But people do fall away, and that's fine. At first it used to hurt, but now I found out that there are people who do, you know, understand, and people who don't mind me being a little bit slower or canceling it at the last minute. So I support comes from a lot of different places. As far as family is concerned, family is tricky. Family is tricky because, sometimes family doesn't want you to be sick, so they prefer not to see you sick, or they're not going to ask you what's going on. Or if you tell them what's going on, they're going to tell you about somebody else who they think is sicker, which is absolutely, you don't really care at that moment. But I do have some family members that are very supportive, and I thank them for it.
It's wonderful. Rita, what would you like to add to this topic?
Well, I have to say that I've been given a wonderful husband that has been so supportive of being with me at my appointments and helping me find the location of the place I'm going, and just in so many different ways he has cared so well and used his skills in life and on the computer and in different ways to help me keep information and know where it is and be informed and organized, and just his daily caring. And then apart from that, I would say my my faith and my family. My faith has kept me solid in knowing that what happens to me in life has a purpose, even when it's hard, and that I'm going to be given just what I need to walk through it if I keep my eyes up above to the Lord. So that's been just very significant to me. And the friends that I have in many cases affirm those things. But when I'm a letter writer, and I send letters to people that are going to serve in another country, or friends that live in a different place. And I just love doing that. And I just find when I am reaching out to somebody else, it's almost like I'm saying those words to myself. And it helps me to be encouraged when I encourage other people. My pulmonologist is, I just can't even say the number of things I want to say about this particular physician, because she and her assistant, from the day I first met them, I felt we just clicked. And she's very understanding. She's a good listener. She cares for my whole health. And she also recommended other physicians for me for specialties within the Vanderbilt system, which saved me a lot to be able to be connected. And so what I'm hoping to have soon is a support group. That's something that I have not located in this area yet, but I'm hoping I will, because I know that the one I had in Illinois was very meaningful to me. And that's the one piece of the puzzle right now that's missing. But I'm just grateful for the people that have been put in my life, and how they've all cared for me in their special way. My daughter is so good at looking up new information and finding recipes that would work for me, and new health supplements and so on. So I feel like I'm well cared for, and I'm very blessed to have the people in my life that I do.
It's wonderful. And I'm hopeful that you'll find that support system down there in Tennessee soon.
I'm sure I will.
Good. Moving over to, PH is a lifelong illness. And as unfortunately, there isn't a cure at this time for it. So Lenise, with that in mind, what are your concerns with long-term care? Do you have a plan in place, and what does that plan look like?
Well, I'm a widow, so my previous long care plan was my husband. But right now, to be honest, it ebbs and flows. When I think that I have it together, something happens and it just changes. What I have done was made an advance directive, so that if something happens to me, my brother will know what to do. What my wishes are. I have done that. If I was to suddenly get sick and not take care of myself, it would be a trial, for the simple fact that, as good as my health insurance is, it doesn't pay for a home health aide unless you're terminal. Mm-hmm. So, at this point, to be perfectly honest, I'm in flux with it.
Absolutely. Rita, what about you? What are your concerns? What do you have a plan in place? What does that look like?
Well, I think the fact that my daughter and her husband and family invited us to move 2 different times to be near them. We moved from Minnesota to Wheaton to be by them. And then they said, guess what? We're going to Tennessee. So we packed up and we came to Tennessee. And so I see that my family is very concerned about us living near them, so that they're able to be available and to care for our needs and to support us in whatever way we can. So I'm grateful for family. And I just have that sense that if something were to happen and that would change, if they had to move or something like that, I just feel like that's already known by God. So he's going to have to find out he'll let me know what the answer is, because I just have decided that I used to be a person that looked very much ahead, and now I'm really trying to live one day at a time. Do I have what I need? Am I cared for? Do I have the health that I enjoy today? And if the answer is yes, then I feel very fortunate to be in that situation. And when things come along that are unplanned, then I know that I will be able to adjust to the situation, because I depend a lot on my friends, my faith family, and being able to just go into prayer and look for that answer of the step that's going to come next. And I've never been failed in moving forward in my life, or even when it's been very frightening to think of leaving all my friends and going to a completely different area of the country. We are more resilient than we realize, and we can adjust along the way when that situation comes. But it's not my place to worry about how I'm going to handle it before I get there.
Absolutely. Kira, what are your concerns with long-term care, and do you have a plan in place?
Well, concerns for I would like to be alive to need long-term care. That would be fun for me. I, you know, I've relied a lot on family, and I live with my parents now, and part of the reason that we've stayed in Denver is because my daughter and my nephew are both still in school. My daughter's finishing up cosmetology school, my nephew's in high school. But once they're done, we need to move to a more affordable area because it's too expensive to live near Denver. And when I'm on a fixed income and my parents are older, like that makes things difficult. My twin brother and his wife live in Pennsylvania and have invited us to live with them if the occasion arises. So we have kind of a backup plan, so to speak. So there's options. But I think what Lenise was talking about with having that legal paperwork is incredibly crucial, I think, for all PH patients, not only like advanced directives, but also medical power of attorney. You need to make sure you have all of that paperwork. And I'm lucky enough to have a best friend that's also a lawyer. So shameless plug, if anyone needs a really great lawyer in Colorado, Ciccone Law, just saying. She's always been really great about giving me the kind of information that I need to keep to protect myself, legally speaking, as far as my health is concerned.
That's wonderful. And, I know these are very hard discussions to have. So I thank you guys for your vulnerability and being willing to share with us your plans for your future. And with a lot of the conversations that we've discussed today, the changes in your lifestyle, the changes in diet, medications, all of that can be very overwhelming for anybody. And especially for somebody who's newly diagnosed. So Rita, what is a piece of advice you would give to someone who is newly diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension?
I would say it's important to connect with a really good physician, and one that is not just medically competent, but that has that side of their personality that will spend those extra moments with you talking about your life, not your physical condition, but what is life like for you. And I found a physician like that has just been wonderful. And it's not that you have hours to talk, but sometimes that sense of understanding on their part is what really helps you to go home and face your situation. Having people in your life that are supportive is very important. And it's actually important to stay away from the naysayers and the people that are not speaking blessings and truth into your life, because there's a road that you can go down that when I was first diagnosed, I'd think, well, I wonder if I'm going to be here. And, that was 8 years ago. And the Lord has given me many days beyond that, many months beyond that. So I quit thinking like I'm leaving. I'm going to stay here like I'm living. And I think that makes a big difference, not to try and figure out what life is going to be further down the road, because it's really just one day at a time. And it keeps you healthier that way, not to be trying to imagine things that might happen that really never happen anyway. And then you waste all that worrying for nothing. So I try to stay in the present.
Absolutely. Kira, what would be your advice to somebody newly diagnosed?
Don't Google it.
Yes.
Don't Google it. Don't WebMD it. Don't Wikipedia it. Just don't. Huge mistake I think a lot of us make. And the first thing you're going to see is you're going to die in 3 years. That's literally the first thing that comes up is the mortality rate. And just don't. Because I literally spent like the first 4 or 5 years of my diagnosis thinking I was going to die tomorrow. And that's a terrible feeling. And since then I've met people that have had PH for over 20 years, and that's encouraging. So yeah, definitely don't go to the internet. Go to PH approved sites, talk to your pulmonologist for more information if you need it, and find support groups. More than anything, find other patients, because they're the ones that are going to help you have and find hope. And that's what you need to get through this. You need people like Lenise that will make you smile on your really crappy days. You know, that buddy that you can call up and be like, you know what, today sucks. And she's going to tell you how amazing you are. And you're going to believe it because she's amazing. You know, find those people. I think that's incredibly important, but don't internet it. Don't.
Absolutely. Lenise, what would your advice be?
Well, like my adopted daughter, Kira here, don't go on the internet. Don't panic. Because I read the same thing that Kira did, that I was going to be dead in 3.5 years. I mean, I was planning my funeral and every other thing. Find a doctor that listens to you. Find a doctor that takes the time to explain things to you. Yeah. Go ask that doctor for a website. The doctor should know a decent website. And be careful who you rely on. You know, your support system might change. The support system that you had when you were healthy might not be the same one that once you have this disease, they might be different. So have a support system, have a good support group. You can join mine, Team Phenomenal Hope. I'll support you. But have a good support group, because these are the people who are going through what you're going through, and they understand what it is. Do not be so hard on yourself. There are going to be days when you just can't move. There are going to be days when you're just too tired. There are going to be days when you can't breathe. There are going to be days when you have things planned and you're going to have to cancel. Don't be so hard on yourself. Work this disease out to your best advantage. If you do something on one day, don't try to do a whole bunch of things the next. Work it out. Do not look at each step as a downgrade. When I went from portable oxygen to tanks, I had a lot of people say, "Oh, you poor thing, that's terrible." I'm like, "What? That I'm breathing, I'm okay with this." But don't look on every single thing as a downgrade. Look on it as, okay, this is going to help me get to what I have to do to the next step. Also, too, faith. My faith is one of my strongest things. You have to have something to hold on to that you can't see, but you know is there. But I just feel that don't let people hurt your feelings. People are going to hurt your feelings. I've had people call my oxygen. My brother called my oxygen an air hose. Why you have that air hose in your nose? People are going to say things that they should not say, but sometimes they say it because they're uncomfortable. So don't get your feelings hurt. Look for a support group that is going to support you. Look for that friend that's going to support you, but don't panic. It'll be okay. You have a good doctor, talk to your doctor. If you need a therapist, I believe in therapists. Talk to a therapist. Get out, move, walk. Don't just sit on the couch and wait to die. Get out and move, get out and walk, get out and do something. Find an interest. Okay, I've talked a lot. I'm done.
Well, I would like to thank all three of you for your time and insights this evening. I know it's not always easy to share your experiences, but I'm hopeful that in doing so today, you have helped at least one person. Before we depart, I wanted to provide our panelists with a final opportunity to end with one word of hope to our listeners. So Kira, I'll start with you.
One word of hope. Oh gosh. I don't know that I have just one word that would, it'll get better. It's not, this will pass. It's not always going to be hospitals and doctor's appointments. It might feel that way right now, but it will get better.
Awesome. Rita?
Oh, I have a little journal that I follow, and it's also coloring inside, which is very relaxing. but it's called gratitude, praise, and prayer. And I have to say that the place of gratitude in my life, I have a little store that has just odd little things that they sell. And one of them was just a plain blank poster, and right in the middle said grateful. And I just feel like each day I can find many, many things to be grateful for. And that takes my eyes off of the things that might be the challenges. Not that I'm ignoring them, not that I'm acting like they're not there. It's just that I'm giving the place of gratitude a bigger space than complaining or feeling sorry for myself.
Absolutely. And Lenise, I'll end on you. What would your word be of hope for anybody listening?
Gratitude. Gratitude. My one word is gratitude, for the simple fact that I've had it bad. I've had it in the hospital. I've been homesick. I've had times, but there are so many good times in between. There are so many good things that have happened, and gratitude. I'm grateful for every single day. So I'm going to say gratitude.
Thank you. So thank you to Kira, Rita, and Lenise. And thank you to everybody for being a part of our discussion tonight. I hope the last hour or so has provided you with some insight into the complicated and oftentimes unpredictable world of pulmonary hypertension. As a reminder, tonight was not a medical discussion. And for the latest information about pH and how you can manage it, please go to learnlivebreatheph.org. And as we end tonight's discussion, I wanted to take a moment to thank our sponsors for all of their support to make this and all of our programs provided by Team Phenomenal Hope a reality. And in support of pH Awareness Month, we just showed it up on the screen there. Our next support group meeting will be on Tuesday, November 14th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The topic will be navigating insurance and copays. And you can register at teamph.org/support. You can also check out all of our other pH Awareness Month activities by scanning the QR code that's up on the screen as well. And with that, I would just like to say thank you all for attending tonight, and I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.